What are we witnessing right now? Is Nvidia falling behind? Is the king of artificial intelligence himself, Jensen Huang, CEO of Nvidia, is he failing to maintain the virtual monopoly that Nvidia currently has on the AI data center market? What does Lisa Su, CEO of AMD, have up her sleeve? AMD seems to be running while Nvidia stock is falling. And is this justifiable? I mean, we literally just saw a massive deal from Oracle to deploy 50,000 AMD AI chips, signaling new Nvidia competition. And this isn't the first time we've seen this. Again, a recurring theme. A lot of people are investing in AI data center infrastructure, and AMD is one of the companies providing that infrastructure. Same with Nvidia, obviously. But AMD seems to be getting more of that market share than we may think. After all, we're seeing some headlines. We see Oracle, we see OpenAI. If we see OpenAI, we think really good things because they virtually have infinite money right now, even though they're a profitless AI company. They're expecting $100 billion in revenue purely from the OpenAI deal alone. And if you haven't been living under a rock, we all know AI spending is incredibly important for us as humans with jobs. We want to continue spending our money. We want to continue having jobs. To give us that money and to maintain our jobs, we need AI spending to stay strong, or else companies are going to start cutting costs. And one of those costs is going to be dispensable labor. You, potentially. So what does Nvidia have to say about this? Because after all, they seem to be the trailblazer in the space. They get a deal with OpenAI. AMD gets a deal with OpenAI. They get a deal with Oracle. AMD gets a deal with Oracle. And now today we need to talk about more of the technical side to this competition between AMD and Nvidia. We want to oversimplify this though. After all, this channel is about bringing you value through simplifying investing through an engineering lens. And so I'm not going to belabor the point here. We're not going to use all that nerdy technical jargon that sounds really cool and builds a lot of hype. Let's just get a high level understanding of what separates Nvidia from AMD in the AI arms race. And at the end of the day, who's set to benefit the most, and will you keep your job? So as always, let's build some context real quick. We're gonna make this super fast. AMD, they've been doing great. They're growing at a solid rate. And then you bring in Nvidia. Oh my God. The gap between Nvidia and AMD in terms of revenue is straight up baffling. Now, why is that? How could Nvidia be bringing in over 5 times the amount of annual revenue that AMD is right now? After all, they're kind of trying to do the same thing, right? Provide AI data center infrastructure, provide the chips, the networking, the cabling, the switches, the software, all to give you a seamless infrastructure to eventually rent out AI compute to your software companies like OpenAI, with ChatGPT, with Sora, with any other great AI app you want to use, I guess. So how does Nvidia do it? Well, it goes something like this. They give OpenAI some money. OpenAI spends like 3 to 4 times the amount of money they got from Nvidia on Nvidia products. So basically, Nvidia money goes to OpenAI, and then OpenAI spends that money and way more on Nvidia infrastructure. And they do this with a whole bunch of companies, right? It's a big circle of AI spending. We've seen this on the news now. This is nothing new. And remember, OpenAI also wants you to subscribe to me and like the video. And AMD sees this. They know they have to take advantage. So what are they doing? They're doing the same exact thing, right? They need these companies like CoreWeave, like Oracle, the companies renting out data center compute to software companies like OpenAI. They need to get some skin in the game and get their chips in these data centers. Now, again, let's not get super technical. Let's simplify this. When you hear news headlines that mention Nvidia chips are so much better than AMD chips, that's actually not entirely true and kind of a clickbait headline, because some of AMD chips, in particular the newest Instinct chip coming out 2025, we can see that in terms of raw performance, there actually are some upsides to AMD over Nvidia's ultimate Blackwell B200 chip, right? Now, this would be boring if we talked about performance characteristics and specifications of this technology. Why don't we just oversimplify this, right? How far ahead is Nvidia of AMD that we can justify a market cap of, what is it, 4.4 trillion versus AMD's 300 billion? I mean, we're literally talking about a 14 14 to 15x in valuation difference. So how can we justify it? Because when you hear Nvidia chips are greater than an AMD chip, and then we look at the performance specifications from a very high level, there's something off, because clearly Nvidia chips aren't always better in every single case than AMD's. Well, it's because most headlines aren't purely talking about chips. They're talking about the entire product. To simplify this, imagine this is our entire AI data center infrastructure. So to put it very simply in an analogy, this is our house, let's say. To build our house, we need a bunch of building blocks. One of those blocks is going to be, I don't know, a brick for the foundation. We're going to need some wood. We're going to need some stone. I feel like I'm talking about building a Minecraft house right now. But the point is, we need a bunch of building blocks to build out this AI data center infrastructure, right? And to do that, we're going to need a lot of different things. We're not just going to need GPUs, the chips that are all over the headlines, right? We're going to need GPUs that specialize in doing things really fast. We're going to need advanced networking capabilities with InfiniBand to allow big clusters of these GPUs to actually communicate all at the same time. Because at the end of the day, the whole idea of the GPU is to do a lot of things very quickly. And to do a lot of things very quickly, you need to do a lot of things in parallel. And not just that, but remember, GPUs were originally designed to render graphics for video games. That was Jensen's grand vision way back when GPUs were for 2D and 3D video rendering. Now, well, let's maximize Let's min-max these GPUs to their absolute limits and see what kind of compute we can get out of them. And you know how we can do that? Well, we can do that through CUDA, our proprietary software. Now, I think we're far enough into the technical details here, but if you're so interested in some more technical, nerdy detail, you can take a look at this screen here. Basically just a collection of all of the different aspects, the building blocks that make up the AI data center infrastructure that all these big tech companies are throwing literally hundreds of billions of dollars at and are propping GDP up so that you can keep your job. And now we're not going to go through all this because that would be ridiculously boring and frankly kind of useless. But the idea is, can we justify this 14 to 15x premium on Nvidia shares compared to AMD with the amount of years that they are ahead, with the competitive advantage, the moat that they have right now? And so that ugly spreadsheet we just looked at with very small text and a ton of technical jargon, I'm going to boil that down and make it nice and simple for you. How far ahead is Nvidia of AMD purely based on how long Nvidia's been working on that compared to AMD? And you can see the gap is absolutely massive. 5 to 9 years in the technology world is literally a century worth of data. Think about it. They've been building out their proprietary software, CUDA, to fully max out the potential of GPUs and maximize just the interconnectedness of the whole entire system. Developers, CUDA developers in particular, have been working in this environment for literally a decade. Years and years. And yes, AMD is taking these significant steps in the right direction. They're running fast, but they may just simply be too late to the party. We see the same thing with networking to a lesser extent, but it's still there. And then the full stack, the most important metric, what the filthy rich big tech companies bow down and praise Jensen Huang, CEO of Nvidia, for is their full stack AI data center infrastructure. Hey, Sam Altman, we're gonna put together the entire thing for you. You know what? Don't buy our chips. Don't buy anything on its own. Just buy this one system. We'll build it for you. This one system is completely maxed out and optimized for the exact purpose that you need it for. And I would say that's a pretty strong value proposition. And now, like we said, AMD is working to build out a similar business model, right? But let's just be honest here. we all know there's such thing as early mover advantage in the business world. And with AI, there's a whole new meaning to first mover advantage. This market is projected to exceed $1 trillion within the decade. And Jensen Huang says it's way, way bigger than that. It's going to be $1 trillion by 2028 within a few years and $3 to $4 trillion by 2030. And now I want to cut to this clip real quick. The founder and CEO of Grok talking about just how important getting your hands on compute is right now.
If you don't have energy, then your civilization grinds to a halt. Prices escalate, you can't build goods, and you can't trade. Sovereign AI is really just a way to say, we need to be able to control access to compute just like we control access to energy. Just like you have energy security, you need compute security.
Let's not even worry about the term sovereign AI. Let's make it even more stupid simple than that. What we just heard is countries and mega cap tech companies care so much about their access to compute to train their AI large language models, to run their software, ChatGPT, Sora, etc., that building out compute infrastructure is comparable to that of building out energy infrastructure. And if we've learned anything from the history of humankind, is that without reliable energy infrastructure, your society will simply never grow. You don't have the energy to power innovation in literally any field that exists today. And the same concept goes for the future of artificial intelligence. Like any industry out there, we're going to have winners. OpenAI with ChatGPT, they're looking to dominate the consumer application layer. What application are you willing to use the most on a daily basis? And the one you're most willing to use probably depends on how much utility it actually brings you. Does it make your life easier? Does it make your life more interesting? Does it make you money? All these things contribute into your decision to use OpenAI's ChatGPT or any other AI software out there. But at the end of the day, all these companies that are running their massive large language models, their softwares that require quadrillions of operations per second, they all need compute. And where do they get that compute? Well, right now it's Nvidia, and AMD is striving to take some of that market share. Because as Jensen Huang put it, if this market's worth anywhere between 3 and 4 trillion by 2030, this pie is absolutely massive. And yeah, Nvidia has a virtual monopoly right now, but you know, if AMD can get 5, 10, 20% of this revenue, there's a serious consideration to be made that AMD has a lot of room to grow. But again, we come back to the whole point of this video is simplifying the technology. How does this make the investment decision easier? Well, at the end of the day, that's up to you to decide. But here we see that the full stack, Nvidia's environment, the sum of all of these little building blocks that they've been working to optimize and build out for years and even a decade in some circumstances. This creates such a vast lead between Nvidia and AMD in this space. And again, I'm not going to get super technical here, but there are use cases where an AMD system might make more sense than Nvidia. Many people argue today that AMD has an advantage when it comes to inferencing. In other words, you plugging in your, I'm sure, thought-provoking questions and comments to ChatGPT and receiving an answer, AMD stack could be more efficient, faster, cheaper than Nvidia's stack for smaller large language models in particular. But when it comes to the scale, the monstrosity of an AI spending craze that we're in today, with this man right here literally pledging $1 trillion to the AI data center infrastructure build out. They're looking for compute on scales that are virtually unfathomable right now. And the only way you can satisfy those demands and feed the AI spending beast in Sam Altman and OpenAI is with Nvidia's system. In other words, right now, Nvidia is really, really good when it comes to training super large and complex systems, which is virtually every single company's goal. goal right now. We know with OpenAI, they're pretty much betting on artificial general intelligence. And to do that, only God knows when that's going to come. Could be years, could be a decade from now, could be tomorrow. But at the end of the day, they need a ton of different things all talking together at the very same time. And Nvidia has built a ridiculous moat when it comes to that use case. Now, eventually, when these massive models are built out, when ChatGPT becomes smarter than every single human combined on the entire planet, the idea is, yeah, we want to constantly be training that model to get better and better, ultimately becoming a super intelligence, taking over the world. That's everybody's grand fear, right? But ideally, we want to be able to use that. Consumers want to use ChatGPT. They want to use Sora to generate all these ridiculous memes of Sam Altman stealing stuff. At the end of the day, the data center infrastructure build out is insanely profitable for Nvidia, and so they want to capture as much market share as humanly possible so that all those applications, all those ChatGPTs are built on their tech stack. When it's built on their tech stack, they can find ways to monetize it. And so in conclusion, is it justifiable that Nvidia's trading at a 14 to 15x premium of that of AMD? Well, of course, we can't answer that concretely, but when we look at the numbers, Nvidia had a 94% unit market share in AI server sales in 2023. And as they note, it's naturally going to drop. They estimate 75% by 2025 and 2026. Again, this is naturally going to come down because OpenAI has this incessant need to spend money and invest in compute. And if Nvidia, who's selling, 5.5 million chips per year, can't meet that hungry demand, then somebody else is going to have to fill the void, and that's AMD right now. Let's not belabor the point. We saw that Nvidia is making a whole lot more money than AMD is right now, and that's because they're focusing so incredibly hard on optimizing the data center infrastructure play, and AMD just isn't quite there yet. AMD's data center sales were 29% of their total sales. Nvidia's data center sales were 78%. They are literally going all in. And let Jensen tell you why. We're at the beginning of two industry-wide transitions. In 2025, in Huang's words, is the early innings of the AI arms race. Nvidia has been putting in years to specializing and optimizing performance of their complete AI data center infrastructure stack, while AMD has been playing more of that generalization game, right? They're really good at a lot of things, but not quite the best at any one thing. The game that Nvidia is playing for maximizing performance is virtually all that Sam Altman and OpenAI care about. They just need the best performance possible. And right now, Nvidia's system does that and has that advantage over AMD, no problem. Now, I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know what you think. Do you think that Nvidia is actually this far ahead of AMD? Because again, these numbers are purely based on when Nvidia actually started working on CUDA compared to when AMD started working on their own proprietary software and all those data libraries and tools in ROCm. So are these numbers all objectively true? If AMD goes all in, are they actually 5 to 9 years behind of the Nvidia CUDA dominance? Maybe not. I'd love to hear what you guys think. Subscribe and like if you made it this far. It makes me happy. All right, that's it for me. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye now. Bye-bye.